This is an Ellis Mowers and More small engine repair. Stay connected on Instagram and Facebook at Ellis Mowers and More. Comments or questions? Leave them below or email me, ellis@ellismowers.com. Parts used in today's repair are found using the links in the description below. And as always, like and subscribe for more small engine content. On today's repair, we are going to continue with this 97 model Craftsman riding lawnmower, lawn tractor that has turned out to need a decent amount more work than I thought it was going to. So in part one, we were able to get it running. I thought a carburetor would get it back going again because the other carburetor was flooding it out, leaking at the needle in the seat. Pretty typical for a 25-year-old Marlboro carburetor. Time to put a Hipa carburetor on it. We wish you could say the Marlboros, but I need to make this running reliably for the next person, and that is the best way that I can do that. Part two, well, we figured out in part one also that we needed to replace a push rod. The intake push rod got bent because the valve actually got stuck. So we've changed the oil, and I've actually ran it for a while now, and that issue has been resolved. Now in part two, we're going to find out that we're going to have a lot more issues to resolve on this machine than I thought. It involves the front end, it involves a deck spindle, and a couple of other things along the line. However, stay tuned to the end. The result of this machine is actually really, really good. So worth the time that I took on it. And I hope y'all enjoyed part two. Not a lot of in-depth repairs on this part, but I'm just going to give you a brief overview of everything that I did and the end result of it. So I hope y'all enjoy it. Let's get started. Alright, so here's another thing. I've turned the deck over. Looks like we're going to have to replace one deck spindle because I see a little stress fracture in the corner right here. I'm going to see if I can see if I can take the bearings and the housing out of, or the bearings out of that housing and put them into this housing. If not, I've got a full-on deck spindle there in the drawer. This one right here, the little five-spoke thing has worn down, so it's kind of like, well, it's still holding the blade on, so that's a good thing. It looks like this spindle is actually in okay shape. My guess is that this hit was the hitting right here and broke it. So I've just got to kind of grind a little bit of this away where it's peeled away from the deck, and I think we'll be okay when it comes to that. A little bit disappointed in how bad this deck is because it's pretty beat up right here in the middle too. Considering how decent the rest of the mower is. So I've already taken the blades off. When I flip this over, got to be careful because so I flip this over. What I have to do now is take off the little cover here with some star bits and take off the main pulley here, and it's on this side, yeah. And then your 3 spindle bolts are down here, and hopefully they will not wring themselves off. Hopefully they'll come on off and not be welded on there, rusted on there. And see if I can knock all the bearings out and put them into this housing. If not, I've got a full spindle sitting there waiting for me in the drawer if I need it. We're at the point of taking this spindle off. Again, after I took the blade off, I was able to just get a T30 Torx to get that cover, and then a 15/16 on an impact was able to break everything loose for the spindle pulley right there. And then luckily for me, a 1/2 inch was able to break free these spindle bolts. So this should be a plug and play project here. Now all I have to do is get the old spindle housing out, and just have to lift the deck up to do that. Oh. And don't forget to put this piece back on whenever you go back to putting your spindle back on. It goes underneath. But you can see that that ear of that spindle actually broke off while I was taking it off, so it was necessary that needed to happen. All I got to do now is knock this bearing out of this spindle. The other bearings actually stayed on the shaft over there, and I just need to put that bearing into this and then just do the reverse. So let me do that. Knock that bearing out, and we'll put this spindle back on. So we've gotten this side all finished up. Again, you're probably going to put a new spindle on your machine. So pretty easy, just 15/16 to take that pulley off. You've already taken your blade off. You hold the pulley while you take it off, get that cover off, and then those 3 bolts, and then you just slap the new assembly on in reverse order. I just decided to rebuild this one because I had the parts here. Wanted to save my new assembly. I'm going to show y'all real quick. This one right here has actually got a lot of noise associated with it. So I'm going to try to quieten it up a little bit with some grease. Although these are sealed bearings, it does take a little bit of effort to get those pulleys off. It's just got a lot of junk and stuff in it, so it can be really easy. Just tap the shaft with the side of a hammer right there, and that should get everything off. And then I'm going to jack the front of the deck up. Actually, I'll jack the back up. We're going to pull that shaft off. It's a good way if you just have a cheap mower that you want to help prolong the life of your spindle a little bit. You can do this. There's nothing inherently bad about the spindle. It's just got junk all up in it, so might see if I can find another spindle shaft real quick as well. Give me just a second. Alright, what we have done is I just sprayed a little bit of WD-40 down there, and the lower bearing's the one that's making some noise, and it sounds like we've got it a little bit quieter, which is good. And what I'm also going to do while I've got the shaft off here is take the grease gun and just spray some grease down the shaft. Or spray some grease, shoot some grease down there, pump it, whatever you want to call it. We don't have to fill it all the way up because the shaft is actually going to take up a decent amount of space here. Alright, so that's plenty for what we're doing here, and we'll take and put this back in. Alright, so gotta kind of knock it back into place here. And we should have the pulley and then the little washer that goes underneath it. Washer and pulley. Perfect. Put the nut back on. I don't know if it'll necessarily quiet it down any, but hopefully it'll help prolong the life of it a little bit longer. This one's right on the edge of me just wanting to replace it. Then I gotta remember, you know, the amount of money that this mower is going to bring in. You kind of have to work with what you got in some aspects, and then replace the stuff that absolutely has to be replaced. So. Actually seems a little bit quieter, so that's good. And we got this side here that we have swapped everything onto this new housing that's not broken, so we should be in good shape. I am going to work on putting the tubes in the tires, or getting at least the 2 good tires in the front, and just some final touches on this deck, sharpening the blades and things along those lines. I spent a ton of time getting the engine running, and we spent a decent amount of time on this deck as well. So I'm going to do a lot of the small stuff off camera here. I'll go ahead and get the deck back underneath the machine, and since we know it runs and drives, what I'm going to do next is we're going to see if this thing will actually mow here on this video. Before we put the deck and everything on, I did want to show y'all how to replace this deck hanger that was broken. So you can see I've replaced it here. Best way to go about it, just to replace the entire assembly, because this actually had some stripped threads in it. So I have plenty of these hangers for good threads. It actually is right, do you see where that cotter pin is right there? So it goes right there, and it just hooks in, and it just drops straight down whenever you unhook that cotter pin. Drops straight down. It goes through a little gap right there, and then you just put the new one in. Pretty easy. If you don't want to, if you only want to replace not the hanger but just the piece itself down here, you could just go and take this 9/16 inch nut off. It's honestly your choice, whatever you decide to do. But either way, we're back in business on this deck, and we're ready to put it back on. Just put it back on like I showed you how to take everything off with all the mounts and linkages. You'll see kind of where they all go. I'll give you a refresher when I get everything back on. I'll get some better front tires on this thing, and hopefully we'll be in good shape to drive this thing around and potentially mow some grass with it. So it just seems like the things keep piling up on this machine. Good news is I have a lot of Craftsman parts that are like this, so this isn't a big deal at all. One of the things is these wheel spindles are worn out on this front end, and you can get the wheel spindles and all that stuff, and that explains why the bearings were worn out on both of the wheels, was because they had them kind of cambered out, and that puts a lot of stress on the wheels, and that's not good for them. However, it kind of looks like this, I mean, this thing seems like it took an impact or something really bad at some point. With the way that the deck is, with the way that this front end is, and with the way that this valve cover was. So now I'll swap the front end out, and it's a lot easier than you think it may be on these machines. I did get the tire tubes in the front tires because the tread on these tires is pretty decent. And I had a couple of tubes here, so we got that resolved. I changed out the wheel bearings. All I did was knock out the old ones with a screwdriver. Just took the wheel off and knocked them out. These are just kind of walled out, and I put new ones in. They're nice and solid, so that's awesome. We don't want to be wearing out wheel bearings. But really, it's pretty easy to get these off. Most of the time, all you have to do is take that big nut off right there in the middle of your screen. Sometimes it's a 15/16 or a 1 inch or something along those lines. And you just have to hold it with a wrench on the other side right here. and it just drops down after you take the drag link off. And that's all you really got to do, and then you just jack the other one up. Some of them have little braces that you have to take off in order to get the front end off, that are usually attached by these bolts right here. This one doesn't seem to have it though, so that's a positive, I suppose. If I see any more things, I'll let you know. I know this video is getting really long. We're getting pretty close to finishing here. I think all I gotta do now is take the front end off, swap that out, and put the deck on. Those things I've shown many a time on the channel, so if you want to see those, just search Craftsman LT1000 on my channel, and you will most likely find what you are looking for. Just a quick update before I put it all back together. The front end has been swapped. What I had to do that was take the exhaust off and lower it down so it was accessible to this bolt right here. It's 15/16 on both sides. In this case, some of them are a little bit smaller, and then again, you just take your drag link out and just drop it out. You can take this tie rod off, and it gives you better access to that bolt in the back, but that's it. Just swap the front end out and we're good to go. Put the tires on it. One of the tubes busted. I think I got a bad batch of tubes, and so I have a different tire here that's still got the pneumatic side of it. Pumped up all the tires. On the deck here, everything's nice and clean, which is good. And what we're going to do is, I've put this linkage back on and actually screwed it in a little bit because I noticed that the belt was loose whenever we were trying to engage the blades. The deck belt looks pretty good overall. We've got the spindles turning, and so that's good. And the deck in the front here, I cut just a small piece off because it was ripping. So if we had a really nice mower, the best thing to do here would be to try and recreate like a little berm or edge on this deck, but whoever's going to probably buy this mower is probably going to abuse it anyway. So you got cracks right here, cracks right there. So it's unfortunate this deck is in as bad a shape as it is, but it's still functional, so that's the main thing. I'm going to put it on again. It's just the two mounts in the front. You have to hook up your deck linkage to, you'll see the little eyelet that it hooks into underneath the mower. You got your back two mounts right here that hook into that piece that I replaced, and then this rear mount that hooks onto an arm in the back. I'll show you what it looks like before we test this machine out, and hopefully we have a running and cutting mower that's ready for sale here in just a second. Deck is back on. I had to adjust that adjuster back out a little bit for the blades. It's sitting right up there. It actually is almost all the way out. I think this belt is a little bit stretched. Had to kind of work on the double stack pulley a little bit because it was bent down a little. I don't want it to wear the belt out prematurely, although this belt looks like it's in pretty good condition. We have, let's see, engaging the blades. We have a tight belt now, so that's good. And like I said, your mounting points on each side, one's right here, your two in the front, your linkage for the engagement lever, and then on the rear, back on this side, is a mount in the rear. And that's all you have to do to get this deck back on. I'm gonna pull it out here. We're gonna test the blades, and then all that's really left to do, I need to swap this piece out for a period correct piece. This is a newer version of this, and while it works, it will be nice because I've got plenty of period corrects. I think I do 6-speed shifter housings right there. The carburetor didn't leak overnight. I think that was just a fluke because it was the first time it had been introduced to gas. I see that quite a bit. And I think that's about it. So let me get the stuff buttoned back up here on the front. We're going to pull it out and see if this thing will run and cut now. Hopefully it will. I've replaced that shifter assembly to a period correct one that fits this frame. I'm going to put another hood on it because I've got one in the backyard. I didn't know if I had a green one or not, but I do. That's period corrected this as well. So let's pull this out and let's see if it will run, drive, and cut like it needs to. I'll give it an oil change and give it a good little cleaning. We'll put that other hood on it, and that's probably everything we're going to need to do this. A lot that I had to do, but well worth it, I think. Well worth it. Doesn't even look like the same mower, does it? I'll show you that it runs, drives, cuts. It's a little miss on idle right there. Once you get it going, it's great. Getting a nice hood, which I just had sitting in the backyard from another machine that I think I scrapped, and a little bit of transmission fluid shine really make this machine look a lot better, doesn't it? That's a huge plus right there. This seat is in great condition. Engine's running good. Has that little miss on idle there. But when you get it up to full throttle, it's just fine. For the price point of this mower, it will be just fine as well. All the tires are holding air, which is good. That tube is holding. And the deck. The deck, I think I can only get it to cut up to 3 inches, maybe just a shade over 3 inches, because of all the damage that's on the front. But I just cut my whole backyard with it. It did just fine. It's just kind of unfortunate that the deck has got that damage on it, because if it didn't have that, this thing would be in amazing shape and would honestly bring top dollar, especially since this mower is a 97 model. You can tell it was taken really good care of for most of its life, at least, considering the age of it. And so there we have it. Basically just a work day's worth of work to get this going. Do I have any money in it outside of the carburetor? I don't think I do. The belts were good on it and everything else was good on it. So just swapped the carb on it, got it, put some fuel lines on it and a fuel filter, which is negligible cost. So we've got a pretty good mower here. So this mower paired with the yard machines, just to give y'all a background of how much I paid. I know we're going to go into numbers here very quickly, but I got a lot of items. A Toro with a Suzuki 2-cycle, a Yazoo, the yard machines, and this Craftsman I got for $250. I sold the Yazoo with another one that I got for free as is for $100. The Toro brought $125, so that's $225, which leaves me 25 bucks in the red still for this machine. And this machine, I probably have $40 worth of parts in between the two. Actually, maybe only like 20, because the Hipa carb was given to me in exchange to do a video for. So generous to them. So if I get $550 like I'm asking for the yard machines that y'all saw in a previous video, and I get $450 for this, and that's a really good return. A little over $1,000, about $1,100 on that lot that I paid $250 for, and really didn't have a ton of time in it either, so that's nice. Anyways, this is one of the nicer examples of one of these older Craftsmans that I've had in a good little while. Again, I wish the deck was in a little bit better shape, but it functions and does perfectly fine as it is. And for somebody who's looking for a sub $500 mower, this is a great example. It runs good, drives good, cuts good, all things considered. All your tires hold air, new battery, new carburetor. Okay, we'll add the batteries to the cost of the machine, so add another $60 there. But nonetheless, really, really good return on this lot of items that I got, rounding it out with this Craftsman. Thanks again for watching, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed the journey. We had to do a little bit more than we thought on this machine, but aside from the carburetor, actually the battery, I have $0 in this machine, just time. So kept costs down, helped keep profits up. And these machines, usually when I send them, they get sent and I don't have an issue, and I never see them again unless they're in for a service, which is awesome. Thanks again, guys, for all the support as always, and I will catch y'all on the next video. Take care.